Hey everybody, I wanted to do a quick little follow-up video on the Saturn. This is our 2008 Saturn flip car. We got this for $1,100 at the auction, and it doesn't have third, fifth, or reverse, which is a common issue with this transmission. This is the 6-speed, 6T70 transmission as it's called. And on the last video, we pulled out the drum right out of the side of the transmission that houses those clutch packs for those gears. So if you caught the last video, you would know that we had gotten in here and checked out the condition of our clutch packs and all of that. Everything looked good. We were hoping to install a Sonax drum saver kit, which is what fixes that common issue of the third, fifth, and reverse gear loss. That, you know, that's what goes on with these transmissions. They're known for it. And well, we got in there and someone had already installed one. So yeah, in case you missed it on the last video, somebody had already installed one of those kits. That's what this is right here. And all this does is it gets you above that damaged area on the drum where the teeth were ate into. The teeth get eaten into like that when the wave plate breaks, and it just sits, it spins around on the drum and it eats into it. But this kit solves that problem and gets you above that damaged area. Now, whoever put this kit in, they did not put the snap ring, and I'll show you that now. Some of you guys commented in the comment section, and you were quick to call out the fact that, hey, this thing is supposed to have a snap ring holding all of these clutches and steels on. This was not supposed to come apart when I slid it out of the transmission. All of these clutch packs and steels were supposed to stay on the drum. They fell off into the transmission. I'll show you that now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, everything's gonna fall apart. That's all right. That's all right. Let's try to keep it all together as we get this out of here. I'm gonna leave all of that in there. And I just want this right here. This is all I want. So yeah, a lot of you guys were quick to point that out, and I do appreciate that, man. That is awesome. I had noticed that all the videos that I had watched from professional transmission rebuilders, that when they slid this drum out of the transmission, you guys are right, man. All of this was supposed to stay intact. It wasn't supposed to fall off. Well, here's the snap ring. We got one, man. This is literally $4 down at the old transmission shop, and what that's going to do is that's going to clip right into this little groove here, and that's going to hold everything on. So you might be asking yourself, like, well, where's the snap ring? Why was it missing? You know what? Who knows? It's nowhere to be found. When we pulled the transmission out, it just did not exist. And I think we know why. We had one comment, one subscriber that commented, and I'm going to shout him out. His name is Will Overkill. He was the only one that I know of that caught this. But check this out. This guy right here is not supposed to be in there. They were supposed to remove this. That's part of the installation process of putting in the drum saver kit, is you got to get rid of this guy. And then you put your clutch packs and your steels on there. And then you can put your retainer clip on. And I think that's what was going on. I think whoever installed this kit, they left that extra layer in there, and it made it where they couldn't get the clip on. I don't know. For whatever reason, they left the clip off. And you know what? It kind of doesn't even matter. Even with the clip on it, if it is possible to get on there. You know, I'm no transmission scientist or anything, but I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to have two metal surfaces rubbing together, and that's exactly what they had going on here. I mean, look at this. This is a metal surface. That's our drum saver kit, and this is what they had right smack dab on top of it. Two metal surfaces going together. I don't think that's correct. And that, look, it had like some weird wear, as you could imagine. I mean, two pieces of metal rubbing together. Anyway, I watched the installation video probably a half a dozen times, and it does clearly state that that steel rather does have to be removed. So this is what we're doing, man. We're getting rid of it just like it's supposed to. You know what? I even got directions. I'm going to show y'all. So yeah, the transmission shop was nice enough to print us off some instructions. So right here in plain, you know, black and white, it shows that it is supposed to have a clutch disc on top of that drum saver kit, not a steel. So yeah, you see right here, that's our wave plate that goes on the bottom. The next layer is the drum saver kit, that's right there. And then right there, look at that. That is a clutch disc, not a steel. That goes right on top of that. You're supposed to remove one of the steels. It says so right in the directions. And so this guy is out of here. So it doesn't get any more plain than that. That's what the directions say to do. That's what we're going to do. So I just want to kind of clean up my stuff here. All of my repair kit right here. All right. The letters are going to go down right over the top of our wave plate there. And then we'll get all these cleaned up. And we will just build our layers. These are all the same ones that came out of it as far as the clutch discs and everything go. They're full of transmission fluid. We don't have to soak them or anything like that. If they were brand new, I've heard a lot of those transmission guys say that you want to put transmission fluid on them before you install them, or maybe even soak them in transmission fluid, but we don't have to deal with that. On this, I don't believe. I think we'll be just fine. And you know what? After we get it all together, maybe I'll just kind of put a little transmission fluid, you know, just kind of tip it up, just run it on in there and let it kind of ooze down in between the layers, just for shits and giggles, right? Here is our snap ring. $4, y'all. I'm going to be beside myself if this turns out just to be a $4 repair and that's it. I'm going to be blown away. But, I mean, it's looking that way so far. I'm going to try to be optimistic on this and just go with it. This ring goes in the little groove there, as we talked about earlier, I think. And it's very simple to put on. We don't have to have any kind of special tools or anything. I mean, look at this. Watch this. It's just going to click right into our groove. Look at that. Awesome. We're in the groove all the way around. Want to make sure. Just go through and kind of inspect it. And look, this is what happens. Most of you guys were pointing out. Look, all that's supposed to stay on there. It's not supposed to fall apart into the transmission like it did when we were taking it apart. Also, something else with this thing is I didn't even know this at the time. I went back and looked at my video clips and discovered that the top ring, the top steel, actually has a groove in it for that clip to ride inside of. And they had that steel, that outer steel, upside down. So between that being upside down, between them having the extra steel in it that wasn't supposed to be in there, there was no way they were going to be able to get the outer clip on. So near as I could tell, they just left it off. Like, I was thinking that maybe there was a possibility that it maybe popped off and that caused an issue or something. Like maybe it's still hiding somewhere inside the transmission in little pieces. But no, there was no way to actually install that top ring at all with that top steel upside down, therefore lacking the groove for that clip to ride in. You understand what I'm saying here? So they left the clip off. That's I'm calling it. There's no way that they actually put the clip in at all. There was just no possible way. So let's count the ways that they screwed this up. Too many steels, creating the stack to be too thick, no clip, period, and the outer steel on upside down. So, I mean, could they have screwed this up any worse? So there you have it. I do believe that is installed correctly. We'll get everything all cleaned up. This has a little bearing right here. Very important that you don't lose that and that goes back on the way it's supposed to. Just kind of wipe it out, make sure there's no dirt or anything in there. If you'll notice, it's got this weird little groove like that. You'll put this down on here, and that's how it will ride, like so. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can't get all this put back together. I'm going to kind of get everything lined up. Now that I've got it right there, I'm going to take a second and do what I talked about, maybe pouring a little bit of transmission fluid on these, just for fun, right? Just to be a little on the safe side. Something like that. Maybe a little added insurance. I don't even know if that's necessary. I'm just going to do it anyway. We'll get all this slid up in here. You got to kind of line everything up here, I guess. This might take a little bit of doing. And then you got these guys up here that need to be lined up as well. Something like that. I think we're in there far enough. Some of you guys are probably screaming at the TV right now. But remember, this is my first shot at this, and it appears as everything has gone up in there like it's supposed to. You can kind of see where the clutch discs slid up into the teeth, and then now we've got this out here to deal with. Not to worry on this part. It's got a little tab down here at the bottom that hangs down, and that's where that goes, is right there. I took note of that when I was taking everything apart. So that should be fine at this point. I think we can fish our wiring harness back through here. You remember that goes through there and comes out where the front, under the front cover there. And at that point we could put our cover back on. So I did mess with it a little bit more off the camera, and basically all I did is just sit here and just kind of twist back and forth, just kind of take it around in a circle. And what happened is kind of like putting a torque converter in an automatic transmission. It just kind of slid into its little notches. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? When you put the old torque converters on, you kind of got to get it just right, and it'll drop in there. Well, that's kind of what this did. And if you'll notice, it actually did drop in there a little bit further. All of these are all where they need to be, and they're kind of in their grooves now. And like I said, I just kind of went around in a circle like this, and it kind of dropped in there. So I do believe we're good now. I mean, everything, this is exactly what it looked like when I took it apart. Everything was just like this. So I think at this point I can put my cover on. It'll take just a second to kind of clean off all your mating surfaces so that everything will seal. You can see where it's got a little bit of dirt around the edges. You just want to get rid of all of that. We'll do the same thing on the transmission itself. Just kind of common sense, you want to clean everything up before you go bolting it back together. Wiring harness is going back in. Wish me luck here. Tied me a little piece of welding wire to it. Kind of help fish it through there. Seems to have got the job done. Let me pick up the cover here. There we go. Yeah, that worked out pretty well. We're already all cleaned up, ready to go on here. Let me get everything all lined up. Go and pull the slack out of our wiring harness as we go. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. We're getting on there. Let me continue to pull that slack out a little bit. I'm going to keep a little tension on it. Okay, now we're going to kind of see if we can't wiggle this up on here. It's got a dowel it has to go on. Here comes the fun part of getting all this to line up, because you don't want to force anything. So I keep having trouble keeping this last little plate on. Not sure if you guys ever done this before, but this last little ring wants to keep popping off of here. And what it does is it comes misaligned, and then when you put the cover on, it won't snap onto that last little bit. I mean, we're talking like this much. We got like 1/8 of an inch. And like I said, you cannot force it. So never be tempted to put the bolts in it and let the bolts suck this thing down tight on here, because chances are you may have something misaligned. And what I do, I get the cover all the way up on there and get it right to the last little bit, and then this little ring pops off, and then it won't go on the rest of the way. And that's basically what I've been doing, is just fighting with that. So I just stuck a little bit of grease behind that little plate and see if that'll kind of help hold it on, and we'll try it again. So yeah, just a little dab of grease underneath that plate right there, just to kind of help hold it. And then I'll get this, kind of fish this up in here, and just like we did before, we will pull our harness through as we go. Now, basically what's been happening is when I get this up on here, you can see it's already trying to move on me there. Let's see if we keep that stuck up there like that. I don't know, it may have moved on me again. Let's see. But yeah, right when I get to about right in here, the plate will fall and not let me slide this on the rest of the way. So kind of a pain in the butt, and that's what I've been going through on it so far. I've already had the cover back off a couple of times. It looks like I may be about to have to do it again. Okay, not gonna lie, that was a bit of a pain to get that on there, and it literally took like 3 or 4 tries before I finally got it. Basically, I had to pull everything back out and just go through and make sure everything was completely lined up on all the little teeth and just kind of work everything down on there. And I realized there was one little click that didn't go, and that was what was holding me out. And that's why you don't want to force one of these on there, because if it doesn't just go on, something's holding you up and you need to go back and recheck. All right, let's go ahead and jack the transmission back up just a little bit. Remember, we had to go up with the transmission just a hair to get this transmission mount back in. With the transmission up, we should be able to drop this guy right in here. There we go. We'll drop it down just a little bit till the bolts line up, somewhere around in there probably. It's a good idea to go ahead and start all the bolts before you tighten anything down. That way you got a little wiggle room to get the bolts in the holes. With all the bolts started, let's go ahead and get rid of the jack. We don't need it under the transmission anymore. We will put it under the subframe here in just a minute. For now, let's get this tightened up. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and reposition my jack up under the cradle, and we'll start jacking it up and putting the bolts back into the cradle on this side. Remember, we dropped it down on just this one side. You're going to want to pay attention to your steering shaft again. Remember, when you're dropping the cradle or when you're raising it back up, watch that steering shaft. So we're going to raise this up, and we're going to pay attention there, like I mentioned, to the steering shaft, and just make sure that it slips down over that rack and pinion. We don't want anything binding up. If I have to, I'll get in there and just barely kind of tap on it with a hammer, and it'll go right back on there, I'm sure. Also, something else that we're going to have to watch is right here, our strut. Make sure you guide it up into the hole. Make sure the bolt holes line up, and just kind of just do it as you go. You know, you don't want to let any of that bind up. Make sure it's still loose. You see there, like that, and we'll get it guided up in there. Just about to get it all the way back up in there. Good news on that steering is I did it by hand. I just got in there kind of wiggling it, and it just popped right back down. I didn't even have to get the hammer out. So now that we're supported by the jack, I can go ahead and get my jack stand out of the way, and we can start our first bolt in. Remember, this one had this weird bracket, so we're going to go ahead and put that on. We'll just kind of twist it over out of the way for now and just get the bolt started is all we want to do. And then we'll go up there and we'll start the one on the front as well. We'll do the same thing on the front. Go ahead, and I think I need to jack it up just a little bit more to get the front one in. Oh, you know what? Something else to keep in mind. Guide your radiator back into the hole. You can see here we're actually misaligned right here. That could have easily become a problem right there. This whole bracket that comes out off the subframe is what the radiator, the bottom of the radiator sits in. It has a dowel that sticks down and goes into the hole. And you can see, look at this, we're a little bit misaligned. Pay attention to that as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down just a bit, give us a little bit of slack, and then we can guide it on through the hole. Let's go ahead and get our strut lined up with the bolt holes there before we go up any higher. Something like that there. Pull it up the rest of the way just to get something started. There we go. We'll get all these on here, I think. There we go, like that. We've got all of our engine cradle bolts in. They're not tight yet. I'm going to torque them down here in just a minute. And then also, I've even managed to get the steering shaft bolt in as well. That steering shaft actually is probably one of the easiest ones I've ever done. They usually kind of fight me a little bit, and that one didn't fight at all. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get everything tightened up now that we've got it all started. How about we go ahead and start the one at the back. Now this one had extra bolts. You remember it had this bracket with 2 extra bolts. We'll have to tighten those up as well. There you go, there's that. And here's the front one. There you go. Go ahead and let the jack down. We don't need it anymore. And there you have it. The engine cradle part's done. So at this point, everything else is done. I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this in. This is the valve body. This is what we pulled out of here on the first go around, thinking that maybe something was wrong with the solenoids. I'm gonna bet that we found our issue with the wave plate and the whole thing being installed wrong and the missing clip and all of that. And we're just gonna put this back in and see what happens. So you guys wish me luck. Hopefully this thing is still good. There's about a bajillion bolts hold this thing on. I'm just going to run them up here with my air ratchet, and then I'll finish them off with a hand tightening of the just a hand ratchet. And it's worth mentioning that these are all different lengths, so you want to keep track of which one they came out of. You just want to snug them up. You don't want to get them super tight. Now that we got the valve body installed, got all the bolts in it, got it tightened up, got the plugs plugged back into it, we're going to throw the cover on it and start filling it up with fluid. I have to remember how I took this off. I can't remember if I took it up from the top or the bottom. I have to go up top and kind of move some stuff out of the way. Yeah, you'll have to be mindful of your wiring harnesses and stuff like that because they will get in the way. There we go. I think we about got it into position. Cool. All right, we'll get some bolts in it now. So with the pan on, there's a little plug that goes on the front of the pan. We've got that plugged in now. I'm gonna go ahead and put our transmission mount back in. You guys remember this guy? I'm gonna drop it through here. It seemed to be the easiest way that I was able to figure out. Now I do know that you can bring it up through the bottom, but it is a nightmare. I managed to figure it out one time and I can't figure it out again. It was like some weird little Tetris type move, and I'll be danged if it didn't come up in there. And then I couldn't figure it out again after that. So I'm just gonna go through the top. Once it's in, I could go through the bottom and get it lined up with the bracket. And that's what I'm gonna do now. So yeah, right here, this is what I'm talking about. This is the brackets here that mount is gonna go in between, and then it'll have a bolt going through it. And this is what holds the transmission. You know, here's your transmission, right? Holds it to the subframe. And I've just about got it into position. It takes a little bit of moving around. I might have to set you guys down and use both hands, but I am so close. What happens is once you get it to this point, it rubs on the fan, the electric fan that's up there. And I mean, if they would have just gave me this much more room, man. But you know how it is. This is the story of working on these front wheel drives. Everything is crammed in tight. There we go. Got it in. All right. At this point, I think I'll put my bolts in. This is the one that goes through the subframe, right? We'll put that in first. So yeah, something like this. Let's see if we can't get it lined up. There we go. Got it through the hole there. Put the nut on the back side. Like I said, sorry for the shaky camera. Now I'm going to leave everything loose. That way I could start these bolts where it actually bolts it to the transmission. And look, we got plenty of play to get everything lined up. Once we get everything lined up, we'll tighten them all in. We'll be good to go. So yeah, you can see there with all that extra play, we won't have any problem starting all the bolts. I used to work with kids in the body shop that would come in straight out of Votech, and somehow they didn't know that trick. And that would be like one of the first things that I would teach them, because they'd be trying to put bumpers and stuff on, and they would get in there and they start tightening the bolts up, and the next thing you know, like, hey, I can't get this last bolt started. And it's like, well, you shouldn't be tightening the bolts just yet. So that is a good trick to know in case you didn't already know. And I know most of you guys know stuff like that. So with all that done, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and put the fluid in it now, make sure nothing's leaking out, and then I'm going to put my battery box and everything on there, get the battery installed, and see if this is going to work or not. I'm trying to be optimistic, you guys. I really am. But who knows, man? I mean, what if there's something else? What if they dug deeper and screwed up something beyond the part that we worked on? I mean, there's no telling, but we definitely did fix the part that we went in for. I know that much. That was all screwed up. Well, I don't see anything dripping out of it. That's always a plus. So I've got my battery on the charger over there. That's what you hear in the background making noise. That is definitely on the list of things to buy for this thing, is a new battery, because one we have does not hold a charge. It'll take a charge, but it won't hold it. So we're going to put in the the battery box now. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. And it will fight you. So somehow you've got to get this all kind of tucked in here. And it's not the easiest thing to do. Just kind of work with it slowly. Patiently, you know. I mean, if it won't go one way, then maybe you need to try it go another way. So I did manage to get this all in there. And what if I told you this was the hardest part of the whole thing? I'm not joking, dude. This was such a nightmare. Fishing this all back in there and dealing with all those plugs and wires and all that stuff. I mean, God, what a nightmare. But it's in there finally. We got the old fuse block over here. We're about to get it snapped down in the hole here, I do believe. We'll have to get it all lined up just right, and eventually it'll click down in there. This is the bolt here. We'll tighten those up. That'll have our box where it needs to be. I got a little plug here that plugs in. Look, see, we labeled it A. Come over here. We got a label on this one too. It's labeled A, so we know these two are supposed to be hanging out together. Kind of took our guesswork away. I love it when that happens. It just makes everything so much easier to put together. Like I think I mentioned earlier, we've got these little plugs here. I call them little. Those are actually pretty good size. Those plug to the front of this. There's 3 of them in a row. They can only go in one spot, so you ain't got to worry about getting it wrong. And then, of course, when you put them on there, just like that other one, you're going to slide the slider down, and that's just going to lock it right onto the plug. So I've got 3 of those to do down in here, and then we can move on to hooking our battery up. Not gonna lie, these 2 out here on the end are a little bit of a pain to get to because this washer bottle here is in the way. But if you'll leave a little slack on here, maybe not put your bolts in until very last, like definitely don't tighten this up. Leave it so you can kind of move it around a little bit. It'll help you a lot getting those 2 plugs on. This one out on the end, I don't think is gonna be nearly as hard. It's slightly smaller and it doesn't really have the reservoir in the way. Yeah, you can see it just kind of goes on the end here. Once you get it kind of slipped up on there, about right into there, it will allow you to pull this lever down. Otherwise, this lever won't come down until this is in position. Like right here. Let me get this off. Right here, with it like this, the lever will not slide down. It just won't. So that's how you know you got the plug in position correctly, is once it's on there and it's in the right position, it will allow the lever to slide down, you see there, and that will pull the plug the rest of the way on, and then it'll click and you're good to go. With that down, we can finally tighten down the battery box. So aside from needing to install the battery, this right here is the final piece. We could put this on. The intake tube here goes on really easy. Got a little screw here that helps hold it all in place. So I'll get all this tightened up. It's got a plug over here we'll have to plug in. Let's get that on there. And there's a little tube that snakes around inside of here, and we will need to plug that in. There we go, just that easy, not hard at all. Now before I tighten this one up, I want to make sure to tighten up my hose clamps. That way we know everything is exactly into position. That way if you kind of have to move anything around a little bit like we did just there, we will have a little wiggle room, just like when we was putting the bolts in. You want to kind of just wait till everything is in, you know everything's lining up right, and then you come in and you crank everything down, and that's what we're doing here. I'll get my 10mm tightened up, and then I think I'm gonna go in the house, have myself a cup of coffee, wait on that battery to charge up, and I'm gonna check with you guys in just a few minutes. Get our old junky battery installed. This battery sucks. It'll take a charge, but it won't hold one, so hopefully it'll be just enough. We get ourselves a good little test drive or something out of it. I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and hook the battery charger back up. Last time I did this, I had to put it on jump start mode just to get the old battery to work. Try something like that. All right, everybody, cross your fingers, man. Hopefully this works. We're gonna get it fired up, and we'll let it warm up to operating temperature, and then we'll start taking it through the gears, kind of let it go through each gear, see if it even goes into reverse or not. I mean, who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. Let's see if we did any good. Yeah, old battery. Starts right up good though. Let's turn all this stuff off. Give that battery all the help it can get. So yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna sit here and let it warm up, and after that, then I will take it through and see if it'll actually go into gear or not. And right hand to God, actually that's the wrong hand. Let me switch hands. Right hand to God, this is the first startup. I have not tried this yet. I wanted to do everything on camera, and I'm praying to God that this works. She does seem to be running really well though, nice and smooth. That's awesome. In case you missed the videos, this had a rod knock when it showed up here, and we actually took the pan off and put some new rod bearings in it. It had spun bearings and everything, and it was knocking all over the place. And she runs good now, nice and tight, and I don't hear any funny knocking or any of that stuff. If you guys missed that video, go check it out. I made a little playlist for the Saturn. All right, here we go. I'm gonna try it out. We're going into reverse. Did it go? It didn't go. It's trying to. Is it low on fluid? Back to neutral. Let's go to drive. We're moving forward. Let's go into, like I said, we're gonna go through all the gears. I didn't feel a reverse though, y'all. It's not looking good. Thought maybe it was low on fluid or something, but doesn't feel like it's going into reverse though. It's not. It's not working though. Still not working. What do you do, man? I mean, we tried. Oh well. We still got drive though, so I guess we didn't do it any worse. Yeah, I mean, she ain't no worse off than it was, but apparently that just did not do the trick, because no reverse. I mean, we could, it's trying. It is, it's actually trying to move. What if we're just low on fluid? We're trying to move, y'all. I mean, that's an improvement over before, you know. It's trying to move, you see. I don't know, we'll let it warm up some more. It's not completely warmed up yet. So, you know, maybe we'll let it warm up some more, check the fluid. Maybe it's just low on fluid, but I doubt it. I mean, it's trying to go forward. It's just not going in reverse. It's not getting any better. I mean, it does try to move though. Well, what y'all think, man? Did we just not go deep enough? I mean, there ain't no telling how far into this transmission they might have had their hands, and they clearly didn't know what they were doing. So I don't know, man. What do y'all think? Should we go in another time, try something else, just cut our losses and move on? I'll admit I've had a little fun with this project. I mean, it's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but I have learned tons about these cars, messing around with the little, this is stuff I swore I would never do when it comes to flip cars. I swore I would never get in and mess with transmissions and all of that, because, well, you see why, stuff like this. It can be very difficult, very time consuming, and a lot of times it won't pan out for you. But we were lucky. We got lucky on the G6, and we got lucky on that Cobalt. Everything panned out, so you know, we were due for a loss, man, an L, I guess. I don't know. We tried. I mean, we did get in there and fix what we saw was wrong. Maybe we just didn't go deep enough. I don't know. Man, I was really hoping to drive this thing down to the auction and get rid of it, and it doesn't look like we're driving it anywhere. I don't know. I mean, hell, I'm all for going back in and trying again, but I just don't know. You know, I don't feel like I have enough knowledge to go any deeper into that transmission, to be honest with you. We probably just end up in the same position as we are right now with a car that still don't drive. So I do think we will be sending her on down the road. I don't think I can afford to mess with it anymore. We don't have a lot of money into it, but we have a lot of time invested. And I just can't see putting any more time into it, to be honest. I mean, it still needs a power steering pump. That means we got to drop the engine cradle on this side to get in there and pull that that power steering pump out and replace it with another one and hope that that fixes it, because another common issue with these is the rack and pinion. I mean, you could get in there and find out that you replaced that power steering pump for nothing, and in fact it needs a rack and pinion instead. It's kind of a known deal on these as well. They're a hot mess. What can I say? The engineers need to be drug out of their offices and dealt with. But hey, it's not a total loss. We've got a car here that actually runs well. It doesn't knock anymore. It's clean. You guys remember that sweet detail job we did on the inside? I mean, this thing looks good inside. I think a quick little wash and, you know, just kind of shine it up on the outside a little bit, and somebody just might be willing to take this off our hands and go on with maybe, I don't know, putting a whole nother transmission in it, something like that. But we spent enough time with it. We ain't doing it. We're just going to sell it to somebody else that's willing to do that. And of course, we'll sell it as is. We'll let them know. I mean, there's no hiding it. So we'll let them know, you know, it does have a transmission issue. It probably has something to do with that drum. I don't know. Either pop it out, go have it rebuilt, or just pop in another used one, something along those lines. But as for me, I am going to move on to the next one. I have got another flip that is very involved that I need to spend some time on. I can't be spending any more time on this one when we've got this over here going on. And not to mention, we need to get back out to them auctions and see about finding another flip car to replace this one once it's gone. Because I'm gonna go ahead and throw it up for sale and get it on out of here and see if we maybe, I don't know, what we got $1,100 into it, getting it out of the auction. What about 75, 80 bucks for some rod bearings and some oil, and about another 75, 80 bucks for transmission fluid and all of that, a $4 snap ring. So we don't have a lot into it. We're into it for around $1,200, $1,300. If we could get most of that back, I think we would be doing all right on it. With the way car prices are going right now, I mean, who knows? We could get all of it back. And you know, we learned some stuff about transmissions on this one. I have never been inside of one of these with the third, fifth, and reverse clutch issue, the wave plates and all that. I've never been in there and dealt with any of that, and now I know it's really not that hard. And if I ever get another one of these or any GM product that has that 6T70 transmission or any of those transmissions that have the wave plates, I will know exactly how to get in there and replace those. And it's not hard. It's actually fairly easy, and it's not even really that time consuming, to be honest. A few hours and you could typically have one up and going. Unfortunately, we failed on this one because who knows what they've done to it before we got a hold of it. It could be something else going on. Obviously there's something else going on in there, and I'm not gonna pursue it any further. So I'm throwing in the towel on this one. Hey, call it what you will, man. That's just how it goes sometimes. You can't win them all. You just can't. And that's kind of what this channel is all about, is I'm trying to show you guys exactly the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and the downs, all of that stuff. They're not all going to be wins. And like I'd mentioned, we had come off of a couple pretty sweet wins before this one. So it's not all bad. It's fine. But hey, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I hope all of you had a really good Christmas. The holiday season is now behind us, and it's time to start a new year. And I wish everybody the best. I hope all of you do good. I did a little better last year than I did the year before, so I'm gonna count my blessings for that. And I'm hoping that this year will be even better. So I wish all of that, for every one of you guys watching. I hope that 2022 is a good year for all of you. You guys have been very supportive of not only my channel, but my daughter's channel as well. Me, myself, and Darlene. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's a very good channel. Me and her working together on her little project. And we're having a lot of fun doing it. And you guys, you answered the call. We asked you if you would please subscribe to her channel, try to get her over 20,000 subs by the end of the year. And y'all blew her out of the water. I mean, I think she beat it by like 600 or 700, maybe 800. I don't know. She went way over 20,000 subs, and I appreciate you guys for doing that for her. That meant the world to her, and it was a great Christmas present. But as for me, I'm going to get on out here. You guys don't feel bad. I know a lot of y'all get in the comment section, and you're like, man, I feel so bad for you, Weirdbeard. I wish that would have worked out. Well, I wish it would have worked out too, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We're going to get right on past this. Don't even sweat it. With all you guys watching, man, I can't go wrong. I can't. You guys are, y'all are great, very supportive, and y'all make everything that much better. I appreciate everybody watching. You guys give me a thumbs up if you will. I do appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be sure to check out my Instagram, link in the description, Facebook as well. send me your friend request. I'll answer your friend request, and you will get a notification every time I put a video out on YouTube, through Facebook and Instagram. So hey, look on the bright side. With this out of the way, we could bring something else in here and work on it instead. And I don't know, man, maybe you guys will like that one better. But anyway, as for now, I'm out of here. I will see you guys later.